Okay, I'm back here, and for the next part of assignment 5, I'm going to show you how to set up your file in After Effects, and also how to get your import your images in there so you can start animating. And then we'll do some basic animation, and I'll show you a basic graph tool that you can use to adjust your keyframes. So here we go. Let's go to New Project here. I'm in After Effects already, so the easiest way to get started is to go to the New Project tab. In the upper left here, again, you'll see your project window. That's where all your all your media files that you're using for this project will be stored here, or showing you where you can locate them quickly. In the center, upper center, there is going to be your screen where you're going to watch your video. In the upper right-hand corner, we see a preview window that has your play controls, your transport controls like play, rewind, fast forward, etc. And down on the bottom is your timeline. That's where you'll get to see your video tracks. In the left here, you'll see each video track and its name. And this is also where you'll be able to, in the lower left-hand corner, this is where you'll also be able to access your keyframe and animation controls to make things happen and bring your video to life. Okay? So with that said, the first thing we want to do is start a new composition. So Control N, or if you want to go up here to the Composition tab, click there, choose New Composition, and I think the preset size of 720 PHD at about 30 frames a second. Let's just go to the preset window here and find something close enough to that. If we go again here in the, oh, let's not worry about that. Let's go down here again, looking at, here's 720 HD at 29.97. That's the same as 30. So we're going to click that, and that's going to be our setup. 29.97. Full resolution is what we're going for right now. And down here where it says duration, you're going to want to click in this window and change the second set of zero, second from the right, to 5 to 7 seconds, somewhere in there. Now I started with 7 as my duration. My video may end up being shorter. It may end up being a little longer. It's fine. The only requirement is to make sure that it's not less than 5 seconds long. Okay? So go ahead and click OK once you're all set up there. There's your screen. So there you see what you're working with there in the upper center. Your scrub key down below for your play. Your play controls are up here. We don't have anything to play yet, but you can still hit play on there and you can see how the scrub key is moving there. Okay. And here's our first composition here. So we're going to go ahead and bring in our clips now that we can use, our pictures. So the easiest way to do that is just go to File, Import, and we're going to import multiple files. Okay. So I click there. And let's see. Yep, I'm in the right window here. If I go to my Assignment 5 folder here, I've got basically a tennis court here and a tennis ball that I'm going to bring in. Now I can't select these together. If I hit Shift and do this, then it'll select all of them. I could try Control. So if you have two files that have other files in between, just choose one, then hold down the Control button instead of Shift, and that'll get you just the other one too. So I can click on those both and import those in at once. Click Import, and you can see, and just click Done there when you're done. And you can see they're both right here. You can move these around too in different orders. And this is the tennis ball, and this is the tennis court that I'm going to use. So you can see it out here, but if I want to edit it, yeah, it has to be down here, which when I double click this one, it brought it down. And then there's my tennis ball. Actually, I think I accidentally dragged that down. Basically, here, let me delete this. Basically, once they're in your project window, you want to take these and just drag them down into the timeline and let go. So there's my court, right? And now we're going to resize this video to fit this window, okay? So I'm going to grab my cursor tool again. and just grab a handle and just drag them to the edges here. Blow this thing up. So let's go ahead and zoom out again. And if you look at this now, you'll see, oh, okay, that we are basically right at the edges of that, okay? And then look at the top here. I missed that a little bit, so bring that up. So there's our tennis court that we can use. And now I'm going to bring the ball in. So I'm going to grab the tennis ball up here in the project window, drag it down to the timeline. And now the tennis ball is beneath the tennis court, so I want to reverse these. So I'm going to grab this and just drag it above the tennis court. And now you can see the ball there. Where it says tennisball.png down below in the lower left, click that little tiny arrow to the left of the title there. It's just over to the left of the title of your track. That little tiny arrow, you can click that open, and that brings up your transform controls. Okay, and that's where these are the controls you're going to use. You click this little arrow next to transform. These are the controls you're going to use for your animation. Okay. Actually, I don't need to make that smaller yet, but I am going to resize it when I need to. So, but what we can do is move the position of the ball over. And if you watch, I can just grab this and move it off the screen, and you'll see these position numbers change down here where it says position. So I can just go up here into the screen, grab the ball and move it, and see the position numbers are changing. So I want this thing to start off screen about right here. And it's going to come in and bounce onto the court and maybe hit the net and then roll. So I'll have it start there. And since I'm at 0 on with my scrub key on the timeline, I can start keyframing its position. Okay, and the way to do that is, again, once you open your transform controls underneath your layer along the timeline, layer track, you just get it set up where you want to start it, and then click the stopwatch next to the word position, and that'll begin keyframing. If you notice here, let me drag the scrub key over. You'll see there's a little blue diamond here in the position along the timeline where it says position. That means it's remembering that the ball is going to start here. Okay? And as we move along in the timeline, let's say 1 second into it, better yet, half a second into it, the ball is going to come down and bounce on the ground there. So let's go ahead and do that now. Notice there it's already creating a path for me. Maybe about there. Or better yet, let's go maybe about there. And notice there it automatically keyframes it for us. It's like an auto key. Okay, and then about 1 second into it, this thing's going to be bouncing up. Maybe about that high. And then maybe about another 15 frames or so. Then it's going to come back down. Okay, and then another 15 seconds. It's going back up. And then notice here I can go back to this one here, and I can adjust it. Okay, so there, and then this one about 15 seconds later. It's going to come down a little bit more, maybe not quite as much there. Or this one maybe has to come up a little bit, right? And this one come down a little bit more. Again, 15 seconds later, it's doing a little more. And a little bit more. I can move these over later. Okay. So here, and we're going to get a little bit of a bounce. Okay. And then it's going to probably move into the net at some point. So I'm just going to move it that way. And I'm not done yet, but I'm going to stop there because I'm going to have to adjust these keyframes, okay? So I just did some basic keyframing. So this is what it looks like so far. It's not going to look like much. It's just a ball bouncing, right? And it's going to slowly bounce down a little lower, then hit the net and move on, right? So before I do anything else, I want to scale the ball down too, now that I can see it. As it moves toward the net, it's going to have to get smaller, right? So let's go down here again underneath the tennis ball track there along to the left of the timeline. Let's go to the scale function and click on that, the word scale. Now we're starting it off at this size here, right? But as it moves down the court, it's going to get smaller because we're going to move it towards the net. And so another thing I can do is start moving these around too. So let's move these keyframes so they're going more towards the net here as we want these to be closer together and get closer to the we want them to be inside the court here as it moves along. So again, you can move, if you just click on the square handles here, you can move your keyframes anywhere you basically want once you create them. Here, let's Control Z that. This one here, this one, coming over a little bit, then this one, and then of course this one. You know, something like that where it's going to hit the net. And now we can resize it too. So scale here, we've got it set up to the original size here in the beginning. Make sure you clicked on the word scale down here. Click the little stopwatch to the left of the word scale to start keyframing it. And then it's going to come down here. Probably by the time it gets there, it's going to get just a little bit smaller, but not too much. Okay, and then it's going to get to about here. Well, better yet, by the time it gets to here, for example, it's going to be really small, right? Let's just imagine how small it's going to get. So here we just go down as much as we think it would go down, maybe about there. So here's what we've got from here. From here, well, here I can delete this keyframe right here. I don't need that second one anymore. But from here to here, it's going to get smaller, right? Let's watch it and see what happens. Okay, and you can see the ball's getting smaller there. It's moving at a very slow rate, right? So we got to figure out a way to speed that up. Okay, so other things we can do, again, you can move your keyframes here, no problem. This one's probably good. Maybe move this over a little bit. We don't want it to move backwards or anything like that, but we want to give the illusion that it's moving in a three-dimensional kind of space, right? So again, I'm just taking the handles and adjusting these kind of like so. Let's have this go here, probably to about there, right? Bounce off there, maybe. Maybe to about there. Okay, so let's take a look here. It's a lot of work. It's called multi-pass animation, where you go through the timeline several times to make this happen. Okay. It's going pretty darn slow, and some of the movement's awkward there. So let's again bring this over. This one right here, for example, I don't need that, so I can delete that one. We'll just have it hit the net right there, and then bounce off over here maybe. There, okay? So again, we can move our keyframes there and then watch it. First, we're just trying to get the movement to look somewhat okay. Okay, that's almost there. Some of the movement on the ball here, it's not hitting the right, like, should probably be up there a little more, you know, and this one. Something like that. Okay. All right, keep going here. Okay, the last one drags a little bit right here. So let me show you a little trick here. See, if once you click on a handle, you can actually adjust the angle with these little circular handles on either side. If it's too round, for example, let's say this one is way too rounded. You just click on the keyframe itself, for example, this one, and you drag these little handles to the up or down, and it's going to change the type of angle that your ball is going to follow. This one is way too rounded right there, so I'm going to make it more angular. Okay, I'm going to click this, and notice there, watch now, it's much more angular. Let's go back and watch it there. Okay, much better. The other way you can do it too is also you can check out your movements in the graph editor. So even though we have all of our keyframes right here, we can go into the graph editor. If you go down again to the timeline on the bottom, in the left-hand window, there's a little tool called the graph editor. Okay, and it's right there above your transform tools. Click on the graph editor, and now you can go in, for example, scale and see how it's scaling down. Or position's probably a better one. You have your X and Y positions keyframes, and you can adjust. So you can click on any keyframe here and adjust them. For example, let's say I want to tighten this whole thing up and make it go quicker, right? I just held down shift there, grab everything, and let's see if we can move this along here. No, we don't want to do that. Let's do Control D. Let's Control Z, sorry. All right, so we can go in and look at how our, for example, right here, this is our vertical movement of the ball. You can see the graph. This is our horizontal. So if I click on one of these, the ball's going to move horizontally. Control Z to undo it. Anytime I select one of these, it's going to select the other, right? So I can make some fine-tuned adjustments here. But most of it is probably going to be wanting to adjust the angle of your curve. If, for example, you can make it more rounded, smooth, and Bezier-like, or more angular if it's moving too circularly. You know, some of these might be good as in circular. Some of these better at a more of an angle. Okay, and then you can do, like I said, you can click on them, you can adjust them. Let's move these along in a smoother trajectory there. Again, just trying to make it as angular as I can right here. That looks pretty good. Now let's try it. Okay. Okay, so one thing you can do too to speed things up, for example, let's say you want it to scale down a little bit faster. You could go right into your graph here like we were before, or you can do it with the keyframes. I think it's a little easier with the graph. is you can make these things get smaller much quicker by just clicking this point and dragging it over to the left. And watch, it'll get smaller much quicker. Okay, and that looks a little better. Let's see if we can get that going a little faster even. So again, you're grabbing these 2 points and you're telling the computer to make that ball get smaller much quicker. Let's try that. Okay, that's looking a little better. And we'll have to adjust our position too as well. Let's go even quicker than that. I think this is going to have to be a quicker process to look convincing. Or it's rendering, so we have to be patient. Okay, then watch it again. Once it renders, it goes a little faster. That was looking much better as far as sizing goes. This is going to be even much quicker. So again, it has to render too sometimes to... Okay, that's a little bit too quick, isn't it, for the sizing part? Okay, so that we realized there we went too far, so I can bring this back now to about right there and see if that looks better. Yeah, that'll work. Okay, so now the next thing we want to work on is the position, right? The position of the ball still looks a little funky here. And if I watch it, I can see that right there on this one here, it doesn't go down far enough. So again, just make your adjustments. So again, go to position. If we click off this one, we should be able to see it better. Sometimes it's hard to see. God, it's looking much better though. Just changing the position alone really does help. And then the next thing we're going to do is also on the position keyframes. We can tighten that up simply by moving all these closer together. So let's see if we can just draw a selection around all these points. Perfect. And then let's see if we could just drag this in to make this stuff all happen much faster, right? Okay, so now it's happening. It's going to be done at about 5 seconds, right? Which is the minimum. But you can see now that the ball, well, it's still rendering here, but you'll see that the ball will move a little bit faster there once it comes through again. Okay, it's looking better. I still think the ball is not moving fast enough. So again, I would do a selection area around everything. And let's speed this thing up a little bit more even. So we're looking at extending this by about a second here with the ball rolling. But for now, let's see if that'll speed things up. Oh, much better. There we go. Now we're getting somewhere. So then we probably want to speed the ball up toward the end just a little bit as it's bouncing too. So again, you can go into position. Again, maybe just grab the last 3 or 4 here. Let's just go here. Maybe these right here. Drag these in a little closer together. Maybe just grab these. These 3, bring them in. No, I didn't want to change that position overall. Maybe grab these. Something like that. See if that looks a little more convincing. Okay. It's better. Ball's moving kind of funky right around here, right there. So I want to look and see what's going on there with position. Yeah, that position keyframe is the one I was having trouble seeing. So let's go ahead and zoom in and see what's going on. Oh, I see. Yeah, that's a little funky there. Let's move that over. Move that into the net. Maybe make this more angular. And then have this thing come out here. Yeah, about right there, I guess. Again, make it more angular. Something like that. Let's see if that fixes some of the awkwardness of the movement. Okay, so here it's dragging out. So again, I would take these and move these in a little closer. Same thing with these, move them closer together so we've got a little more speed happening there towards the end. Okay, and then right here, just take these. Something like that. Maybe even move these over a little bit more. As we move them closer together, they're going to move much faster because they have to travel that same position in less time. Okay, that's much better. So it's getting better. You see how things go along. And then to make this thing, so it moves much quicker here at the end, which we don't want. We want it to lose some velocity as it's going along. In fact, we can keep moving this over a little bit more, I think. And let's do it to 4 seconds. I like that. Now take a look at it. Oh, that's much better. So now we can finish it out to 5 seconds by keyframing the ball to move a little slower as it's losing velocity, right? So let's go ahead and zoom out. And we're going to take this position here, this last, or the ball here at this position. Let's zoom in again, sorry. And we'll use the hand grabber tool so we can see it. Now we're just going to move the ball. Let me grab my cursor tool here. Keep moving it along here to maybe about right there, something like that. Okay, so let's see what we got. And that's going to make a 5-second video right there. Okay, the ball's bouncing. Okay, it doesn't really lose much velocity there, so we want it to kind of lose some velocity as it's moving along here. So let's move these a little further over to say 6 seconds, right? And see if we get a better setup that way. And again, if it messes with your curve, just move the keyframes right in the video itself. Let's take a look at that. There, it slows down a little bit. Let's zoom out and watch it. There we go. Okay, and it rolls off the screen. Again, we can make that even go slower here just by dragging these further apart. Same thing with this one. Let's make it go up to 7 seconds maybe. And let's take a look. Okay. Now this last keyframe, it's not showing up, so we can go to position. Let's get out of the graph editor here. This last keyframe at the very end. And we can move this back. Oops. We just want that one keyframe, right? And we can move that back into the screen if we want. So we can see it at the end. All right, and let's go ahead and zoom in. Let's watch it one more time and figure out what we need to do to finish this up. See how it slows down right there? Actually, maybe we do want it to move off of the screen there. That's not a bad idea. Let's go to position. We'll go to the last frame here, last keyframe, and we'll go ahead and move this off of the screen there. So view, zoom out. We do want this to go off screen. That would be great. And let's see, let's move this key over a little bit to slow it down from there. See if we can get an even kind of velocity going on here. Okay, here we go. One last chance at it. Let's try this again. Not bad. So we need to slow down a little bit more at the end here. So again, we can take this. Oh, we're at 7 seconds there. Yeah, so we'll just leave it there. And again, move this one back a little bit. Just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit. Just so it looks like the velocity is slowing down. There you can kind of see it losing velocity. So that's good. So again, move this over a little bit more until it looks about right. Yeah, it looks good. Okay, so the only other thing I might do is, again, this is a little bit too rounded. I might adjust some of these to make them a little more angular, if possible. Some of them seem a little too rounded. This one probably too. I'm not even sure I need that keyframe right there. Let's see, let's go back on that one. Let's do... Okay, let's try that. Okay, again, still sliding a little bit. We're moving in a kind of an awkward way here. So just trying to look at the angles that it might follow. And then maybe delete that one. Maybe we don't need that one after all. Delete this one. And maybe just have it hit right there. And we'll straighten this baby out. Let's try that. So again, you could delete keyframes. Okay, so the only thing I didn't like was the angle at which it moved here towards the end here. Let's move this along here. And it does quite a zoom right from there to there. So I think it needs to, when you go to the scale, from there to there, that needs to happen much quicker. So this one, under scale, we're just going to move that one. It needs to be moved over. So I can grab this keyframe right in my timeline and move that over so it scales down much sooner. So now when it scales here, you'll see that it goes down much quicker. That's almost too quick, right? So right there. Back over just a little bit more. So that's pretty quick transition there. Let's watch it. Maybe it looks better when you play it. Okay, so the only thing that's strange about that is the position. So it takes a little bit too long to get to that position right here. So we can just move this position keyframe over, and now it should go in there much quicker. Perfect. So sometimes you got to go in and even just move the keyframes inside the timeline. Okay. And then the last thing I would consider in the position is going to the graph and moving my vertical a little bit more. It looks a little strange right there. So in that keyframe right here, this one, right at the net, bring that one down a little bit, and that might fix the issue. Watch it one more time. Yeah, so a lot of it is just where the ball is hitting. So if you go like this, you look, okay, it hits right there, and then it kind of does a rounded type thing. Again, you can change that simply by adjusting these curve tools. Oops. And again, when you adjust one, sometimes you have to adjust the others too. I'd shoot for a more angular approach there if you can. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, it's looking better. It's getting there. So that's the idea there with your basic animation, is to keep at it. You know, you can use the graph editor here down by the timeline to adjust keyframes, bring them close together, or you can do it right here in the timeline just by selecting your keyframes and moving them around. And that's the idea. Or you can go right onto the screen where you see the motion path and adjust the keyframes in here. But those are the basic editing tools you'll need to put together this basic animation project.